Comes
Like, where am I going?
Yeah.
they can FOIA anything on your phone. And so because we were paying.
I said that office, so you could find it.
And so we
I'll
stopped.
come in tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
Because I meet
That's
with
why-
them tomorrow for our agenda.
That's why I
I'll
said
let
no. I'm gonna start from the beginning.
Interesting, I see you on the golf course. I thought that's where you worked from.
3 weeks it's been.
Oh, so the last time I saw you, Brett was the golf course.
I got into a fight with a hedge trimmer a few weeks ago and the hedge trimmer won. They usually do. Yep. You know, they put guards on those things for a reason.
Take the thumb off. You know, about 90% of it caught my nail, or it probably would have taken the top of my thumb right off.
It did fix his slice though, and he's playing a lot better.
Well, this must be important if the mayor showed up.
The mayor, well, when the mayor takes heat, she has to show up.
It wasn't because of that.
I'm just teasing. I'm teasing. We're all taking the heat, so we'll talk about that. All right, it is 9:01. I want to call the meeting to order. I have established a quorum. Every member is here. Is that correct? Roll call, please.
Chair Steele,
Here.
Member Elliott,
Here.
Member Kane,
Here.
Member Swallow,
Here.
Member Hawkins,
Here.
all members present.
Thank you very much. All right, in front of you, you have the agenda that I presented. There is an addition that was made by Mr. Swallow for 2D, we'll add to D, and it is a ProMedica grant agreement that you'll have in front of you. And we'll talk about that when we come to that. Are there any other additions or deletions for this agenda?
Chair, move to approve the agenda as amended.
There's been support, and there's support by Tom. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Member Elliott,
Yes.
Member Kane,
Yes.
Member Swallow,
Yes.
Member Hawkins,
Yes.
Chair Steele.
Yes.
Motion to approve the agenda was approved with the addition of 2D for the ProMedica grant agreement was approved by an all yes vote.
Excellent. Item 4 is the approval of the minutes of the May 11th, 2021 meeting. Is there any additions, deletions, corrections? A chance to review? Great work, thank you. If none,
Move the approval of the minutes?
then a motion by Jim,
Support.
support by Dan. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Member Kane,
Here.
Member Swallow,
Yes.
Member Hawkins,
Yes.
Chair Steele.
Yes.
Member Elliott,
Yes.
minutes approved by an all yes vote.
All those years of experience. teachers,
Oh,
it's
man.
amazing. All right, we will move to public comment for anything that is on the agenda. If there is anybody that would like to speak about the business that is on the agenda at this time. Entertain that. All right, if none, we'll move forward. I call this new business. I probably should call it old business. We've been working on this. Frank Neal contacted me again from ProMedica and the health department, Martha Hall, and they'd like to start getting some details on what we would like for their $20,000 sign grant. And so they're just waiting for us. So what I have done is I have spoke to Scott Merlot to talk about uniformity, safety concerns, what those stripings might look like on those 5 or 6 intersections that we saw when we took our trail tour. And what those signages, I found yesterday, and I don't have it in front of me, but I found yesterday the MDOT handbook, so to speak, on this. And there's some very familiar looking intersections that we could use in that handbook that tells us what those rules are. There's that approach sign that we don't have, that we probably should add to each one of our intersections. You know, where the car is 50 yards back or whatever, there's a trail coming. And then there's the one that we have some of those yellow ones where it has the bicycle and it's pointing down trail. But I think we should do a branding type thing as well in those intersections if we can, you know, for the KRTA. But I think by next meeting, I'd really like to have something in their hands so that they can write us a check and get that stuff moving. So any help, I've asked Scott, and now what Scott told me to do is there are particular providers here in this town, contractors, so Sarsky's and or K&B and the like that can put that. It's not paint, it's a tape, isn't it? Or some sort of clad tape that they put down. And they just wanted to get Scott's approval. It is county roads, a lot of them. so that they have to bless it and we have to put a permit in for each one of them. But if you guys could help me when we
They're all
talk about it,
county
so-
roads.
Yeah, I know. So if you guys could help me just sort of get a sketch or something that we can get priced so that we can go to, just a uniform look at each intersection, so they look the same. Would you guys agree?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, I don't know how you deal with this, but when I do walk the trail, I do see some guys on bicycles that, they're zipping along, they gotta be going 15, 20 miles an hour.
Right.
And if they're not familiar with that trail, even something 50 yards back may not be soon enough, but I'm just throwing that out as it could be an issue, it hasn't been yet, but.
But yeah, that goes to the point that it's not just the approach signs for the motor vehicles, it's the approach signs for the bicyclists.
Right, oh, yeah, that's, you were talking
Yeah,
about
so they're
roads.
both, I think they need to be a part of that solution and would be covered by this grant. But I think that's probably the single biggest impact we could have from a safety issue before we start moving the mile markers and all the other branding, although I want to keep moving on that front.
I will volunteer myself and Sarah's online. Sorry, Sarah. Because I know our DPW also probably called Troy, whatever that is, contractors that work on that. I'd be great to try and get you more details so we can present it back to Frank.
Yep, all they want are the details, and if we can get some details, then I think we can move forward with that project.
Okay.
Be a nice improvement project. Any other questions on that?
Yeah, just off the top of your head, what intersections are we talking about? With 80 Road, 52? Curtis. Now 52 being a state road.
That slanted one on 52?
No, the one right by the LIC.
Yeah, it's at an angle.
Yeah.
That one is,
We'd have to go to MDOT.
yeah, that's gonna have to be a whole separate project by itself.
So you do know that Ron has been working on that as far as crossage. I've been
Okay.
coordinating with her.
Okay.
And I forwarded some stuff to you. She's already implementing.
I think.
So we should focus maybe with this funds, focus on the county roads.
County roads, yeah,
County roads.
yeah.
And city, I think you need one in Ben Oak.
Yeah.
That crossing there is kind of busy.
But
you know.
someone had also brought up the idea, and I guess this will be to the 52, is to put those little bumps, ahead of time, let people know something's going on.
Rumble strips.
Rumble strips.
They hate putting
Technical
down
jargon there. Yeah,
The county does, no, the county does, they don't like, well,
well, for the plowing.
snow plowing and stuff, things like that, but,
They could cut grooves in like they do in the
Right.
center line,
Right.
instead of the things that they have to go.
Yeah, I think the grooves would
The
probably
grooves
be,
would work better.
especially on 52.
Mhm.
I think you're right, that would probably be more effective than rumble strips.
Yeah, so Brown is working on that. This is probably pretty
To the extent that she's trying to get approval for us to address the intersection.
She's getting MDOT to do it. She's already been in communication with MDOT to make that happen. She's showing signs that are gonna go up.
Okay,
And I just want to add the rumble strip idea to them as well. So we've already been out there, I think.
and they're gonna change it to perpendicular.
Right.
Excellent.
Yeah, so, yeah, I just want to bring you up to speed. She is working on something.
No, you said that to me, I just didn't think of it. So, excellent, that'd be a separate project, and then we can work on those other five, there's 5 others now.
Yeah, and I'll be talking with Jason Snake at the road commission. I can get some information about the crossings if you want me to.
I would love, any help I can get, appreciate it. I just hate to see the money just sit there, and Frank keeps sending me emails like, when are you gonna take the money? Kind of thing.
Oh, Jason will take money all the time.
Excellent. All right. All right, Tecumseh Connection. Aiden, want to give us a little update on where we are as funding goes?
Yep, so obviously, thank you all for helping participate in the patronicity campaign. We were successful, and I think the final number was like 57,000 roughly that we raised from donations. So that will be matched by the state. We're actually, and Sarah has been working on this as well. Sarah has been working on submitting the final report to patronicity, so we get our $50,000 match from the state. So that there are some fees involved. There'll probably be about $4,000 or $5,000 in fees because that's how patronicity, maintains their organization and the website and all their staff. So that being said, we'll probably still end up with right around a little over $100,000 from that campaign. So that went well. Obviously, we've had a couple other grant efforts in the works, which we're going to report on in 2D. ProMedica has committed to 25,000. We have a request into the Sage Foundation for 50,000. We contemplated asking for 100,000, but as we talked with Jim Van Doren's kind of the gatekeeper for Melissa Sage and the Sage Foundation. And so he said, he didn't think that was probably going to go anywhere. Thank you, our fundraising committee, of course, Janice Montalvo and Marcy Brown have been helping with that. So I think we have a reasonable, whether it's 50,000, from Sage, I don't know. But I think we have a good opportunity to at least get 25, 30, somewhere in that range. So I think we're certainly closing in on the mark. The two grants I had submitted to consumers and Old National Bank. Consumers was for 20,000, Old National was for 10. So there's a reasonable chance there as well. We talked with actually Old National had their ribbon cutting downtown for their renovations, and we talked to the grant coordinator, the public relations person. So she thought that be favorably considered. They have a quarterly review process, and so they'll come up, and the meeting is like late August. So anyway,
So you can see on the screen over here, Dan,
Yep.
they can see it as well. This
Yep.
is where we're giving today. If you're going to point people towards the giving, the continued giving, it's here. And Michelle, if you can hear me, if you can scroll down, you can see the donate button. And Tom, I want to thank you for your quick work on this. When we come down and closed up patronicity, there's about a few days there, and then we had to get it pointed in the right direction. So
I need to thank Dan on something though, but he noticed something that I didn't even notice was happening, is that link was becoming unlinked. So I called Lenawee Community Foundation, and they have a security piece built in there.
okay.
So that, let's say you go in and make a donation, that for security purposes, now that link is gone and it regenerates a new one. So I'm talking to their IT guy, they are creating a new website. And so he's gonna give me a link, and what it may end up being is a link directly to just Lenawee Community Foundation. Then they'll have to take it from there, hit their donate button. And so we'll have to give that verbiage on the website.
Right.
But I'm working with him because they're doing a new website. So as soon as that's created, I get it set up so that that doesn't fall off again. It's like, whoa, went in there, the link doesn't work.
Right.
So I'm getting it fixed. It's fixed right now, and what I do is go in every day and refresh it. So it's there. So if she could, click on it, see if it works now. That'd be nice. On the donate button.
Just don't give any money.
See, that's what happens.
wrong every morning.
There you go. So I refreshed it yet today, but I'll get it refreshed, and yeah, we'll get it fixed up so it's on all the time.
Right. So obviously people can still, just have them contact the Lenawee Community Foundation. They can coordinate with them directly. If the website isn't working, but at least they get information on the Kiwanis Trail here. The fundraising committee is doing some final asks of, kind of trying to get some of the larger donors. Some ideas like this little bell here is what we're gonna we'll send that little note, and say, hey, help bring the trail to to come see. So we got so I've been working with Janice and Marcy a little bit on that. Obviously, one of the things we're also working on is sending out thank you notes for those that have been donated already. I know I've been approached by a few people that said, if you're short, talk to me again. So I've already given, like $5,000. So
I will ask Ashley to set up a fundraising committee meeting.
Yeah, I think we
do
do.
sort of a summary.
Yep.
Start it up.
then we make sure we get thank you notes out to those that have donated. The other one that came in, I forgot to mention almost, Premier Bank gave $15,000. So we definitely had real progress as of late. And I think, we're definitely, one of the things that we talked about is, that I know that I've committed, if for any reason we're short, that the city could contribute financially, the city of Tecumseh could contribute to closing the gap. The other thing that we talked about with the fundraising committee is the county has indicated, county being chairman of the commission, Mr. Simpson has indicated that the county could help, but we need to make that approach, see how that see how that gravel a little bit.
There's always a cost.
That's, so I think those are some other, I think by the time we are ready, that, I think we will be ready to commit to the county that we have the gap covered.
So are we still on track for getting the trail done this year?
This year, no, probably not.
Probably not.
Already started, absolutely.
Okay.
Only because I know, I'm not sure 100% where we're at on the
I got an update here.
utility poles.
And,
Oh, okay.
Just got it this morning, 7:25 AM, so
There we go.
nothing like last night.
Hey.
That's a fundraising update for me.
Should go ahead at 5 to 9.
Dan, thank you. Another name of the Ray Kiwanis and Rick Urgent put in 5,000, so that was another
Oh, that
great
was
gift
nice.
that we received. So we appreciate everybody's generosity, and this is an amazing project that's moving forward. So going right to B, status of the bid process, they're going out this week.
Okay.
Here we go. So in August, the poles will be moved,
Okay.
at best estimates, over a couple feet. So here we go. And so seeing the poles being moved will be, sort of exciting for people to see, and they might be able to lay that base path. Sometimes they like to lay it in the fall and then let it settle.
That's settled.
Yeah.
And that'll just be stone,
Yeah.
crushed stone or
Crushed
whatever.
stone, yeah.
There's some drainage work that needs to go in. So
There's a lot of
I
drainage
would
work,
suspect
yeah.
that would be done this fall as well, absolutely.
Yeah.
Good.
Please, so they can all see the activity.
Yes,
They're-
yeah,
they're-
progress.
Awesome. All right, there's some business and action items. So I've been holding this invoice, and it's not exact. There might be a little bit more to it because of the final adjustments that were made to the poles. The Manikin Smith had to get back out there with Scott and make some final adjustments, if you will. But the first bill that they sent me was way back, and it was $8,993. And the second bill was $21,005.75. So this is part of the project cost. This was all part of the estimates. So from the KRT's viewpoint, it's really just blessing me to take part of the funds that we've raised and pay the architects and the engineers as we would have anyways. So with that said, I don't know if anybody has seen this. I was gonna I thought I would be on Zoom to be able to show everything, so I should have probably put copies of that out.
So the final number, was that inclusive of the 8,000 or those?
The one
Those
was,
need to be added together.
maybe the 8,000. Oh, those need to be added together. It's about 30.
About 30,000.
Okay.
total.
Yeah.
That's around before we go.
These gremlins?
Somebody's shuffling paper.
Yeah, somebody's hungry.
Yes.
And again, there may be one additional one for Manic because Scott pulled out Todd and Manic and Smith to do another.
So this would be a bill that the authority would pay, not the Tecumseh Connection.
This would come from the Tecumseh Connection money from the
Oh, okay.
Community Foundation. This would be from the community, not from our shared expenses. We're gonna talk about maintenance.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, this is all about, these are just housekeeping items, same with Sarah's next bill, and same with our WLA and radio, we already approved, and we're just gonna go ahead and get the vouchers approved.
Yep.
And then I'd send them over to Community Foundation for Joe to issue the checks.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So he'll do the math so he can make the print.
So yeah, I move to authorize the payment of the Manikin Smith invoices and the total amount of $29,998.75. Funds to be taken from the Tecumseh Connection funds raised at the One-Way Community Foundation.
Support. The motion and support. Any further discussion?
Who supported?
Tom,
Hawkins.
behind the pole.
Yeah, I'm over here.
Any further discussion on that?
Just one thing, I heard one of the ads on the WLA this morning.
Yeah.
I don't know who it was a lady. But it
No, that
sounded
was
really
me,
good.
Tom.
Probably Marcy.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Okay.
But it was really good. It really caught my attention and It's well done.
Excellent.
I do have a question. I know we talked about the website and donate now. I mean, are there people actually donating since the patronicity event ended? So people.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I know people personally, man.
Okay. I'm just curious.
That's but we do have a motion on the floor for the.
Yes.
Yes.
I know, I was waiting. Sorry. Roll call.
Parliamentary details.
Roll call.
Member Swallow,
Yes.
member Hawkins,
Yes.
Chair Steele,
Yes.
member Elliott,
Yes.
member Kane.
Yes.
Motion to pay the invoice to Manick and Smith from the Community Foundation Fund
Yes.
was approved by an August vote.
The next, again, I should probably get these as attachments to you. This one comes from Sarah Gilmore, the city of Tecumseh. This is there's some aluminum bottles. And if you understand the patronicity campaign, one of the things that you do is you thank every one of you that gives them some little gift of some sort. And you recognize them at different levels, as you know. And so that's just part of this. Again, from the Community Foundation, from the Tecumseh Connection, there's a bill for $889.50. $889.50.
So moved.
There's been a motion by Jim. Support. Support by Dan. Give it a minute. And again, that was an expected expense of that campaign.
I wonder if I qualify for a bill.
You might be. You bought some things?
And I don't.
Oh, for that.
I know she's been reaching out to those who donated online, obviously to for the water bottles and things. And if there's anything that people don't claim, I will bring to the next meeting.
All right, again, there's been a motion of support. Is there any further discussion or questions? Roll call, please.
Member Hawkins,
Yes.
Chair Steele,
Yes.
member Elliott,
Yes.
member Kane,
Yes.
member Swallow.
Yes.
Motion to approve the invoice for donor gifts was approved by an August vote.
And then this is WLEN's final bill, and of course I had a summary of it, and it's not in my possession right now. Back in my office. There's numerous bills. We have one for $936.50, one for $442, one for $340, one for $720, one for $1,718, and one for $1,380. Do the math that fast, but it's around 5,000 and change, and I hate to not be technical on a motion here, but let's take a look at those. It's nothing outside of what they did, just to give you an explanation. At the beginning, all of our radio commercials were targeted towards patronicity. Go do the patronicity, go do the patronicity, and then we shifted gears right after that. And Friday will be the last day of our commercials, doing our final push. So we paid for the commercials from the beginning, when we started this campaign in patronicity, and they've been running pretty constant throughout. Thank you for doing the math there. Got so used to Zoom, I gotta get back to the physical world.
Yeah, but showing up on time when you're not just flipping open your laptop, it's a new challenge.
Yes.
Post-pandemic challenge.
More challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, back to copies.
$5,500, 5536.50.
That's right, 5536.50.
I would make motion to approve the WLN radio ad invoices in a total amount of $5,536.50.
Motion or support by Greg. Any further discussion?
Yeah, that's why I brought up the WLAN.
Right.
Notice it was germane to the agenda. I thought we were covering that at the same time, and that it is getting through, and a lot of people are hearing it, and I think it's been money well spent coming back towards us.
Yeah.
One $5,000 donation, it's done,
Right.
because somebody heard it on WI. So they've been very effective, I think.
Thank you for that. And I have to give a lot of credit to Kathy Williams, who She did a
Run the
tremendous
water.
job. She ran around, she behind us, she did everything. And of course, Jimmy's gonna say that's a job, but she did great. And, it's because we're all
I
friends.
just spent the weekend with my sister, Julie, so
So, all right.
that was my penance.
There's been a motion and there's support, correct? Any further discussion? Roll call.
Chair Steele,
Yes.
Member Elliott,
Yes.
Member Kane,
Yes,
Member Swallow.
Yes.
Member Hawkins.
Yes,
Motion to approve the DeVillion radio ads for $5,536.50 was approved by an all yes vote.
And I did notify Mr. Williams to issue the checks, all 3 checks for this meeting. Next on the item, we had added 2D, which is the ProMedica Regional Trail Authority. And ProMedica likes to have sort of a contract, so they understand what this is, what they're going to get. If you can see that they're going to put down $5,000 in the first year, and then I believe that's what we have, and then a final installment the following year of $20,000. I think they did that to sequence some of their other gifting and make it easier for their foundation, so they found a way to fit us in. They like the project, you can tell they do. They understand it's with the Lenawee Community Foundation is where that money will be headed, and the purpose, initial activities, additional activities, and outcomes.
For me, just one thing I want to, on the outcomes, I just be a little cautious. Obviously, we do have sidewalk connections, considering the downtown Thompson, but this specific project will be into Calzone Park. I don't think, I'm just wondering if we should request that just be clarified in the outcome.
Yes, sir, we can do that.
Certainly outside, the overall goal is to get there, and yes, there are sidewalk connections, but this project specifically is get us to Calzone Park, based on our conversation.
And this is really important. And when the fact that the ProMedica Foundation found value in the health and wellness path, and they have their own 2.5 mile track out there that they are making. By the way, I'm having 2 signs made. They're having 2 signs made, not me. And they've asked for all the information. I've got it over to Matt, see if our sign makers at the city can make them any less expensive. But I want to brand the KRTA on those signs. So if you've been out to the hospital property, on the right side is where it starts that path, which should be north. And then on the south side, you'll feel the other side of that path. So we're gonna have a sign on each side that says Kiwanis Trail. And I'd like to have the KRTA on there, and it's gonna be ProMedica and the YMCA co-branded. So that's gonna be fun too. Just reminded me of that. So
is that gonna be between the hospital and the Y or north of the
I
Y?
want to be north of the Y, I want to be south of the hospital.
Hospital, okay.
Yeah. I thought they're both great entryways. They're gonna be like that sign you see at the bottom of Maple, underneath the sheriff's station there, that's where the L sign, that's what they're gonna look like. That's for what we had given as quantities. Any other details on this that we should adjust? I'm sure we can make a motion with that Calzone Park being an adjustment, and then I'm sure they accept it.
I'd make a motion to approve the entering into the grant agreement with ProMedica Health Systems Incorporated, noting the change in item number 6 and authorize the chairperson to execute the agreement.
Support? There's been a motion and support. Is there any further discussion on the agreement? Okay, roll call.
Member Elliott,
Yes.
Member Kane,
Yes,
Member Swallow,
Yes.
Member Hawkins,
yes,
Chair Steele.
Yes.
Motion to approve the grant agreement with ProMedica is approved with the change to item number 6. Was that Dan?
Yes.
Item number 6 to
Yes.
Calzone Park.
Was approved by all yes vote.
All right, we moved through that part of the meeting pretty fast, 30 minutes. Thank you for all that. I want to get to sort of the meat of what we want to talk about today. There's been some phone calls that have come in to Mr. Hawkins and the mayor and to me. That are,
and personal experience.
personal experience,
Yeah,
where there's some overgrowth that's happening in the trail in various areas. And so the question was, where are we in the sequence on the city level? Greg and I talked a little bit, so I'm going to fast forward a little bit on how this conversation, where we maybe take this conversation. Right now, the city of Adrian has provided all the maintenance and support of the trail all the way to its current state before this addition. We've all talked about as a trail authority, how we're going to share maintenance and how that looks. You know, we looked at a previous budget that showed some of the hours that were spent, the amount of work that was done. And if you remember in our early going, when we were forming, that budget was around $84,000. And we put together 100,000. Now, I think there's a couple municipalities that have not issued the check to the city of Adrian at this time, but neither, regardless, there's commitment there. And there's $100,000 budget for maintenance and upkeep of that trail. As you can see now, is that if something's going on in the trail, who are they calling? They're calling the trail authority all of a sudden, right? They're not calling the city of Adrian anymore. They immediately turn toward us, which is fine. It means that we need to address how we're going to move forward. Is it that we service contract everything through the city and they send hours through and we use their apparatus and maybe some of the city of Tecumseh's to do that? Or do we contract it? Do we contract it where we have a contractor that that's answering to us and do it in that fashion? So I threw a lot there, but I want to open that all up for discussion as to where we might be. Now, Greg, you will make some discussion about the fee estate, how it relates to the trail as it relates to this subject. So just wanted to see what people's thoughts were.
I have some thoughts. I like the idea of contracting it out and working directly for the authority. Just why encumber the cities with more stuff, you know, and stuff that we could do. We have personal control on it. Pick somebody like an FNS or something. They do a great job. I like the idea of contracting and the authority controlling it.
Yeah, the only drawback that I see on that, and I agree, I think we should do that, is who's gonna be the one on this authority that says, that they come to and say, are we okay? Or do I go out and say, well, wait a minute, you missed this spot or you missed that spot? Or if you do have.
So you need the chair.
So that's my only concern.
Well, that's my only thought is we're kind of in our infancy here.
Right.
And, you know, we don't have mechanisms in place for contracting, or, it's gonna take us a while to get up to speed, so to speak. And therefore, if the city of Adrian, that means, since they have some experience, if they're willing to take that on, obviously, for this season, I guess, would be kind of my thought. And then, as we meet in over the next, few months, we can start to organize. Okay.
Well, it's something we could get a quote this
Right.
winter.
Right, yes.
When things
Yes,
are,
exactly.
but, and I understand Greg's issue. I'm assuming that it's a manpower issue and it's just,
Yeah, I mean, frankly, because we have so few seasonals and jump in that, we've shifted to using contractors ourselves. We just haven't been able to hire the seasonal.
And see, I'm very sympathetic with that in our own backyard. And why put that on you when there's
Right.
folks, and honestly, I understand your point, Dan, but it's not really that hard to
Well, here's
assign one of the four of us that detail and get someone contracted
Thank you,
and
Tom.
get them done. And no, I'd be more than happy. I get that trail. I'll be the first one to say, hey, you missed a spot here.
You're learning more than any of us.
Yeah.
Here's a quick question. Does the city currently have a landscape contractor under contract that would be able to do this work? And could we just kind of do a pass-through invoice?
Is that true?
Is that something that we could look at?
Do we have anything scheduled right now? I mean, what's scheduled as it relates to trail maintenance right now?
We're gonna do hit and miss maintenance this week with it, kind of just sporadic. So whatever the worst of the worst is, go through it and grab it this week. We were out there last week as well, doing hit and miss, so.
I mean, I go back to in the early stages before the authority was even together, that I always thought that'd be a great project for our Kiwanis club or your Kiwanis club. But again, I understand the issues of unions and things like that I don't want that to be an issue either. But I thought, heck, we could do a lot of it. I shouldn't say a lot of it, some of it as volunteer.
I've already got 2 people volunteer.
Well, we have another one. We had another one too, but there's liability issues associated with that. So Picking up garbage and cleaning up, of using actual
Yeah.
machinery.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
You know, that's where I like the idea of us being in control of it too, because there's also, how is it getting done? You know, the road commission has this terrible machine that goes up along the side of the road and just butchers everything along there. You know, and it just looks so hideous.
Right.
That is not what people who use the
Right.
trail want to see,
Right.
you know, but they also want to be able to go back and forth, you know, 2-lane kind of deal. It's down to 1 lane in some places. Yeah, absolutely. And so if people are walking, the other person coming this way has to either stop or, you know, wait for the other person to pass. So.
And I received a phone call from Dan Baker, and he wanted to go out there and work. If you know Dan, he's a hardworking man.
Yeah.
And he wanted to go do it himself, and I said, no. But he said at times when he's driving through, he gets touched by both sides.
Yeah. So, but it needs to be pruned back in such a way that it maintains that wonderful nature or seeing instead of whacking everything down.
And that goes to that, how much more homework should we do on that? A lot of the things, and Bob Ford's online too, but we talked about the type of foliage that you put on the edge of pathways. So there's a lot less maintenance oriented. I think right now we go in there and brush hog out any of the small tree kind of stuff that grows nearby. And I'm sure they're snipping and sawing where they can, so it doesn't look like it's, you know, butchered.
Yeah.
But there's gonna be an investment at some point in the future, again, not this year, but of what kind of foliage can we put out there to lower some of this maintenance?
Here's a quick question. I mean, how urgent is this? Obviously, we're getting phone calls to the mayor's office. So, you know, I think our fastest response would be to utilize an existing contractor through the city. We want to respond very quickly, which is, you know, sounds like we may need to. That being said, you know, obviously I agree with Jim in that, you know, this winter we can very easily bid it out, you know, and see if we can contract directly.
So who's our contractor, man?
All right,
Would they have capacity to add some more tasks?
they could mow, but they probably won't be pruning. We only contract
Pruning
them
sounds
for
like
mow.
Yeah.
So
pruning
you
sounds
do
like an issue.
no pruning at this point,
That our parks department does.
park stuff? But not scheduled at this point?
Not for the trip, just hit and miss.
Any ideas on how we can get the pruning done?
And schedule it. We'll get a schedule.
But we don't have a contract for this
We do not
one.
have a contract.
So let's take that a little further in thought. So if he has a contractor and we get the pruning done, let's just make that plan now. July 1st was your fiscal year, right? City levels, and then of course you guys are different. But really, we talked about our commitments, where that's gonna be, and where do we start that time clock and start talking about passing on to that type of budget. It's really easy when it's an outside contractor that can be passed through, right? It's a little bit more difficult when we're trying to count hours of city employees that are being devoted to this endeavor, you know? But I think that's still fair too, to the extent that the city does devote many hours to it. So quantifying those and getting those in front of us, I think is important, so that we can all feel like, you know, hey, our constituency allowed us to put 12.5 each in, or our Kiwanis Club, and the city's putting 50 in. How's it being used? You know,
Yeah.
how's it being used?
That was actually a comment from a person who lives on the trail, their property butts up to it, was kind of convicting when I heard her say it, is, I know you're trying to get money to extend the trail, you need to take care of what you got first. And, you know, it was a valid comment, you know, I said, yeah, I'll pass that on to the authority. And
That was one of the primary reasons for forming this authority, is that it was no longer fair to the city.
Well, it's
of
never fair.
Never fair.
Right. That, you know, and if we're going to expand it, we need to have a plan in place.
Right.
You know, I think that is, you know, I think we heavily relied on the city of Adrian to this point, and that we need to start stepping away from that. But, you know, we're kind of in a transition point at this point.
And the problem we've got right now, I'm sure a lot of these Smiths and these places, they're so far behind because of all the rain we've had.
Yeah.
You know, for us to go out and say, you know, we need this done and we need it done next week, we're gonna get laughed at. That's why I think it has to fall on the city, at least at this point.
Fortunately, the contractor's dying for help, just like every other.
Right.
you know,
Right.
People that, you know, I don't want to say lower wage, but, you know,
Yeah.
lower wage spaces that, you know, they just don't have workers. And we put our downtown landscape maintenance up for bid, we got one bid.
Wow. There's another aspect of maintenance that was also 2 calls made, and that's in regards to the service. One person said, I've seen spray paint around a few holes and that's been there for, he said, more than a year. He said, what's gonna happen to those? I didn't have an answer.
I know, it's awkward because, you know, I know the city workers are working their tails off. They're committed to everything that they're doing with our parks and forestry and everything that's happening. I mean, I apply enough pressure on them in the downtown too. So I know we're all pulling at a very small group. It's, you know, we've had an unusual seasonal employee problem. And it goes right to what's happening on a national level. So, you know, I understand totally. So Matt and Jason walked in. Thank you guys for your work. I don't want it to be a session where we're diminishing how much effort you put forth. We truly appreciate it if you get it scheduled and work on it so that we can tell the public that we're addressing it. And that, you know, we're working hard towards a better structure. If also possible, we could start quantifying the hours since July 1st, or should we go back a little bit on that for the beginning of summer?
Yeah.
Because
I
we've
mean,
been,
we haven't
we've been
really-
formed since November of last year, so technically, maybe you could pick up the hours that you voted to the trail so far this year, I guess, in the summer? Or should
I don't
we-
know that there's a reason to go back before July. 1st.
Okay,
We can check them out going forward.
so now we can start quantifying anything you've done since July 1st. From a city level, city hour standpoint, any outside contracting work that's done, and those vouchers would come to the authority. That sound good?
So we haven't really expended any money, have we?
We
From
haven't
the
spent
authority?
anything from the authority. We've done some, we have that money that we had at the community foundation, or not the community, the Kiwanis, that we've used for consulting and attorney work. And beyond that, we've not spent any of the money that's been devoted to this.
I would suggest we put this on a future agenda, maybe November, for next season.
For sure.
You know, how we're going to handle this in terms of whether we want to bid out, you know, scope of work, we're gonna need Matt's help
Matt.
on this to write the scope, to be honest.
Just off the top of your head, what are you thinking number of hours for, I would assume you guys will continue to mow the grass, but to trim everything back annually.
Jason, do you have a number of?
In the wintertime, what we tried to do, when there's not all the leaf vegetation, we go through, we assess the whole trail, we'll look for higher risk trees. We did a wide sweep during January of this year. Had our contractor come in from start to finish. Took a lot of high risk stuff down. I think it worked only because some of the storm damage, the storms that we've had this season has been very minimal damage on the trail. So we are seeing some impact from the winter time. Tree removal work. When it comes to, I try to separate mowing of the trail with trimming of the trail. Mowing, we kind of consider maybe a path or two along the trail on the right of way and the intersection, the crosswalks, that's vegetation that I would consider mowable. Trimming is when you start to get into the deciduous trees and vegetation, all the honeysuckle and all the miles, the buckthorn and everything along the trail. That is something that we go through and try to selectively prune. We try not to go through and kind of like a few years ago, even before we had our new tractor, the county would offer to come in with their rotary cutter. And it did a great job, but it looked very unsightly.
We've already talked about that.
And so we purchased, it took a little while to get it with COVID, but we purchased a new tractor and a boom and some attachments, and we've got what I would consider more of a selective cutting mechanism where we can go through. Now, it's not as quick as a rotary mower like the county uses, but it's more selective. So an operator and another person, we call a spotter for safety, can go through and selectively prune as they go through. They were out on the trail yesterday, north of Sutton, heading towards
Yeah.
So they are out there going on one side, coming down the next, and they were out there last week a little bit. I talked to the owner of Cutright yesterday. ironic timing, going over some of the properties that they've been maintaining for us right now, our right of ways. He mentioned they could take on a little bit more. So I was gonna ask our authority for them to start doing our crosswalks intersections in town, out of town, all the way to the end. I noticed, I'm guessing maybe the council, DPW's been mowing the green and eyes. Forest's been looking good. Somebody's mowing it. Which we appreciate. That's just sometimes.
Jordan, I don't know a lot of stuff they do.
Right, in the past, they've tried, I understand from short staff where there as well and whatnot. The green and ives trailhead with the landscape, parking lot and everything is mowable, but it's sometimes tougher to get out for us, with the crew out there to mow. So Cutright said they could give us some supplemental help on the trail, probably starting tomorrow if I ask them.
Well, Jason, I guess I'm a little confused. You're talking about kind of trees that you're trimming.
Yes.
I'm more concerned about the stuff that just grows over from head high down.
Correct.
That stuff's real thin. It's
And we've got what we call kind of a, looks like a large hedge shear. Anybody knows what that is? We've got it on a boom attachment. That's what they're going through right now.
okay. Right.
Some of that low hanging stuff where in the wintertime you don't, it doesn't, it's
Right.
seasonal, if that makes sense. So you're
Yeah.
getting that leafy vegetation, a lot of honeysuckle, autumn olive, buckthorn, some box elder, stuff that I wouldn't consider desirable, maybe not identified as invasive, actual be in our list, if you will. I will say, if anybody that uses the trail probably knows this, poison ivy is becoming much more prevalent. We discussed going through with a selective herbicide and doing some spraying that wouldn't affect any of the grassy type of vegetation, but would go after some of the annoying broadleaf, if you will, some of that honeysuckle and buckthorn, poison ivy. There is a lot of wildflowers, so it's got to be somewhat selective on. So it's time consuming to do all 7 miles of it for sure. We hear a lot of feedback around the trail, and a lot of it's been positive, but the same thing everybody else is hearing. Hey, this area needs to be cut back, this area needs to be cut back. I agree, it definitely does. When we typically have had more seasonal help than we have this year. We've been able to do that, even physically with just years going out there, saying, all right, a group of 6, 7 people, we're gonna hit this stretch today, and then tomorrow this stretch. And we get out there and do that. This year, unfortunately, we just don't have the manpower to achieve that. So we're kind of being really reactive, unfortunately proactive throughout the park system and the trail.
And that's good info that I can tell people who call me. Because, I've been running this trail for a long time, and this year is unusual. And in all fairness, it's only in certain spots, okay? So, hit those high spots first, I think you'll lose most of the call-ins. But that's a good answer I can share with people, because it's hard getting help. It's just the reality. Look around town, wanted signs, and help wanted. So that's good info. Thanks.
They were out there yesterday, and they'll be out there again tomorrow, Thursday. We still have some park maintenance.
We have had some volunteer groups offer to come and help, and maybe they could do like at the bad spots, so to speak. With just shears and.
Well,
Yeah,
we did that years
yeah.
ago,
Yeah.
but the issue becomes not so much the trimming, but getting rid of the trim stuff.
Yeah.
I think years ago, we did it at Kiwanis, did it as a project, and the city would come through the next day and get rid of what we trimmed down onto the grass. That's the issue would be today is what do you do with that when you got volunteer groups?
Yeah, but they're not gonna be able to cover 7 miles.
No.
That's just fun for the.
Right.
But just hit those troubled spots.
Right.
It would clear out 90% of it.
Sounds like, your crew has already started on the overgrowth cutback. It's just gonna,
Just take a little
It
time.
is, though, that he did say something that I think brings to the attention of the authority. Cutright is an outside contractor who's going to work for them, and we do seem to have ourselves a situation that's live now and prevalent, and it'll take some time for them to work through it unless we add some capacity here. So is with the you know, with all due respect to the city of Adrian, it would be going over our authority by authorizing that action of adding to that, or would it be something that we would,
Adding tasks to cut rights
yeah,
work. I don't. Appropriate.
And I think all we're doing is adding a financial resource that, you know,
Right.
that will hopefully help your budget.
Like, no, I mean, understanding they're doing, like Matt said, they're basically doing mowing, but to the degree they do mowing that we otherwise as staff would be doing, then that gives them more time for more skilled tasks.
I don't know if we want to put a cap on it, but, you know, or if we even need a formal motion.
I don't know if we need a formal motion or not. It's
We'll
hard
worry
to
about
do
it
when you don't have details.
We'll worry about it when Greg gives us the bill.
There'll be an invoice coming for you. Didn't make a motion there.
Do we want to, I mean, the only other thought is we want to authorize a certain amount or anything of that nature.
I mean,
I think you ought to take care
of
of it.
Yeah,
I
I think
think just
just-
take care of it.
One thing, message I want to come out of this meeting is it's getting taken care of, right now. We're addressing it.
Yeah.
And that would be best, I think. So-
But that does raise another sidebar question, and that is a budget for the KRTA.
Yeah.
Do we have a budget developed? We do?
Well, the budget's more of a revenue type budget, but as far as
Yeah.
detailed expectations of when we're going to do the work, how many hours are expected, what do, you know, we don't have that.
Yeah, because I've seen just large numbers, but
Right.
how much is for mowing, how much is for communication?
We
how
do
much-
not have that detail.
Okay, so any future
So,
plans?
Matt, do you keep a spreadsheet running or, I know. Jason,
We track every hour that our guys work,
So you can categorize mowing and pruning and all that too, or no? Sort of?
Probably not that precise, but we can try and get as precise as we can.
Excellent.
Let me just throw something on the table and then. I would just make a motion to authorize the city of Adrian through its internal resources, as well as through outside contractor, namely Cutright, to, you know, utilize KRTA funds to help supplement the efforts to clear the trail of overgrowth.
Support.
There's this motion in there, support, is there further discussion?
It's a support.
It's gonna be a take for years.
Did you get that right? I'm sure I can repeat it.
Did you get it all right? It's on recording too.
Just authorize Adrian to fix it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, utilize KRTA resources through internal staff as well as outside.
And we'll pay for
contractors.
Well, but basically, that's the main purpose of this authority
That's
is
right.
the maintenance of the trail. And this is part of the maintenance.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
There's been a motion and support, is there further discussion? Roll call?
Member Kane,
Yes.
member Swallow,
Yes.
member Hawken,
Yes,
Chair Steele,
Yes.
member Elliott.
Yes.
Okay, the motion to authorize the city of Adrian to utilize KRTA funds for outside contractors and inside resources from the city is approved by an audience vote. How's that?
So
do
good.
maintenance on the trail.
That's pretty
For
good.
maintenance on the trail.
That's close enough.
Awesome. I want to move back to a second to the fee estate in the city of Adrian and this authority. So we're going to have to think hard on this one because I had never thought of it. And I was sitting there talking to Greg and he brought it up. So I hadn't thought about it until now. So one of the things the fee estate trust says is that if money can be utilized for the beautification of the city of Adrian. And that can be parks, and that has been interpreted in different ways when it comes to downtown beautification, when it comes to our park beautification, and when it comes to the trail beautification as well. They've been able to utilize funds for the trail, and as it pertains to, I think, you know, they could allocate it to the city where the city limits are, and then they probably have to work their budgets differently when it comes to outside the city. To that
I think,
extent.
Mr. Chair, I think it's property that we own.
Property?
So,
Okay, thank you.
like, I mean, Heritage Park is not in the city.
Oh, you're
Whatever
right.
we use funds.
So property, okay, property.
So that the issue comes down to the ownership.
Yeah, so then it gets down to, okay, if we form this authority and to Kiwanis Regional Trail Authority asks the fee estate to write a check, can it go to the Kiwanis Regional Trail Authority? So I don't know what kind of contractual relationship or way of addressing this to where the city can perform that function and still be authorized to use fee estate funds, because it is a big asset and one of the reasons, you know, that makes this that helps this work. And to that extent, but are you catching what I'm saying on this? To the extent that they can't write a check, or Greg, maybe you can clarify.
Well, I think the issue would come in, seems to me, at the point where we would dedicate the right of way to the authority. Right now, we own it. But I think we've all contemplated that eventually the authority would own it. And at that point, I'm not sure if the estate funds will be available for that.
What if, does the property have to be solely owned by the city? My point is, can the trail become owned by both the city of Adrian and the authority?
Yeah, I mean, the thing might be that the city continues to own it and it grants an easement over it to the authority. Or
Isn't
something
it?
of that
That's a
nature.
thought.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's gonna be a question we'll have to ask the trustee. You
Yeah.
know, it's not that.
And this will be
Well, fine.
quite a couple years off, so we don't need to make a big thing of it today.
Well,
I just want you to start thinking about
Is,
that.
is it property that's owned by the city that is contiguous to the city? Is that one of the rules, or?
No, I don't.
Well, actually not, because you got Heritage Park.
Heritage
right,
isn't
yeah.
contiguous, yeah. It
Okay,
just has to be owned.
So we'll just start working on clarification of that. Nothing that makes us have to act on anything today. It was something that when we were chatting, I said, I want to bring that up because it's an important feature. To the authorities.
Well, and obviously, you know, at some point, the legal thing is too.
Sure.
Because obviously, the city of Adrian is a, you know, at this point, a 1/5 partner, you know, a 1/5 owner, if you will, in anything that the authority owns. So is that sufficient or not?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably not, but that would be an attorney's interpretation, I think, in my mind.
Well, or a judicial interpretation. I mean, the history of the fee estate has been that there's been sequential judicial opinions on what were allowable expenses. It hasn't been one in a little while, but that's how we've fleshed out what it means, what beautification in the city means.
Through the rulings.
So yeah, we definitely want to understand that before the authority took ownership.
Well, what would it be feasible if the fee estate made a nice sizable donation prior to turning over the ownership to the authority? One that would last a good long time.
An endowment per
Beautification.
se?
I don't know. if That would qualify.
Yeah, and like I say, we can speculate, but at the end of the day, it's gonna be up to the
Mhm.
trustee, and the trustee isn't clear on.
Who is the trustee?
Old National.
Harbor Trust.
No Harbor Trust. I'm talking about house.
So it's not an individual, it's a
It's an
entity.
Correct.
I'm sorry?
Correct.
Yeah.
And Greg, I did pose that question to her a couple weeks ago, and she said she was gonna get further clarification on it, so we should be hearing back soon. I would guess.
Nice. We got a ways yet, but that's a great one to keep working on. Yeah. All right, thank you for that. Purchasing policy, we talked about that last time. Did we ever really create any sort of, we're sort of doing it. Our vouchers and programs, so I don't think really, I mean, we could talk about putting it.
I would think that once we establish a budget,
Right.
maybe people are in charge of particular areas and amounts you could spend, create a policy.
I think the key is
Down the
you know,
road.
so Dusty doesn't have to bring every invoice back to us.
Right.
That he can just authorize certain things to be paid,
Yeah.
and be done with it.
I think that's
I do
great.
think we need to have that in writing, and I don't, I was gonna maybe give you an example.
And that's all right, we'll just stay with it.
I won't.
We still gotta get budgets and stuff like that. We worked out some details today, and I'm happy about that, because we'll be able to start quantifying everything now. And seeing what maintenance looks like. Excellent.
I will say that if I'm allowed to talk, okay.
No, you're fine.
I will probably have a bid back before our next meeting for crack seal and seal coat of the trail.
Okay,
So when I get that back,
bring it to me and I'll put it on the agenda.
Will it take care of the small holes and things like that, or, well,
I just want to let you guys know that will be coming.
Thank you. All right. More on that, we'll move on to KRT branding. So up there, I went ahead and got that done from our boys out in the Insignia. He does great work. I just wanted us to start seeing a visual of what some of our branding might look like. I thought they did a great job. I think that decal on the left is just outstanding with the color. It just grows on me every day.
Yep.
That I look at it. And so, I really want to start pushing hard towards signage, mile markers, and start having some things that people can see on the trail that we're actually doing. Bob Ford said it well, is that every time we do something, we want to sort of keep track of it, take film, whatever the case be, so that we can show it. Right now, we don't want to take film, obviously, but no. It's not gonna help us. But in any event, we want to start making some improvements that are not huge in size, but really impactful, I think. So if you started seeing those mile markers with that wrap, with our KRTA emblem on it, and you're at mile marker this, and Bob talked about a number of things. I know he's listening to me talk about it, but we talked about east, west, south, north, colors, coding. Where's ground zero, which is right behind Trestle Park is where ground zero was, and that's what I think we all agreed. And we need to start looking, what's that really look like? Can we start color coding and doing everything so that people can, and wayfinding signs? He gave us a number of illustrations of what those might look like. We never really made any decisions on that. But I'd really like to get that moving if we can. So I don't know how to make that next step as far as design, because I'm not a design person. But I certainly would like to, maybe Matt, you and I can talk from the sign. You guys have the capacity, those cement mile markers that we have out on the trail? If we had to wrap that in metal or plastic or something, can we do that with your sign, or does that need to be outsourced?
That will probably need to be outsourced.
All right, so now I'm gonna, with the authority of this place, I will start getting some pricing of what that looks like and maybe some ideas of what those would look like, and go out and look at one of the mile markers, as well as the work we're doing with the crosswalks.
Right.
Because it would be beautiful to start seeing that everywhere you're at on the trail. Start seeing that right there.
I like the cement ones, but I can't really figure them out. Where do they begin?
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
We haven't done that. We need to really get out there. I'm sure there's rhyme and reason behind it if you walked, because there's smaller ones and then there's the big ones. I think the big ones are the mile.
Just as an aside, as we install these, we need to think about vandal resistance, only because I don't end out to green and knives and all of a sudden signs are missing. Oh, somebody wanted that for their better wall. But anyway, that is something we need to think about as we design these, is that they need to be vandal resistant. So.
Yeah, you always get into this where, there's people out there that I know do great design work and signage, but you have them do all that work and then you say, we're gonna bid this out. You know what I mean? So, what I'll try to do is just get an example of what one might look like. Some of these things might look like from people that do it, but I do think as being a public body, we at the end of the day probably have to bid it out.
That's gonna purchasing policy with the sign guidance as well. Right. What threshold we need to think about bidding things out. So. But I know Insignia does great work. We use them for 90% of what we do with city council.
Well, we got a hold of them last Wednesday and they produced this by Monday.
Right.
Because I asked them if I didn't, my assistant did, and they did it that fast, so I was amazed. I said something, we gotta get some inspiration going when it comes to our brand.
Racing Township business too.
What's
I
that?
think they're in Racing Insignia.
No, they're in.
Oh, they're in Adrian, okay.
Other side of the street.
They should have been.
He should have been.
That's a whole other story.
Stay on focus here.
Yeah. West side of 52 is Adrian Township, east side of 52 is Raisin.
So Tom, thank you again on the website. It's looking great. You keep staying with it. Thanks for your conscious activity. And now I see that you're doing it every day to keep the donate button alive.
And then could we get some of these graphics?
Absolutely.
You have, I think you have them, maybe not from Bob. I know Bob
I
puts it
have.
over, okay.
I think
And then I know some of them were PDF, they probably need to be put into, a JPEG or some other format, but.
He did that for us. So
Okay.
I do need them in JPEG format.
And then.
See, this is the one we're going with.
Yep.
I know I got multiple And so now I know exactly what we're with, so that'll help. And yeah, I'll utilize a bunch of that in there wherever I can. And any more stuff, pictures, language, whatever, ideas, just keep feeding them to me because I enjoy it. And I do have a workaround to make sure that link for donation is up all the time. I have a plan to make that happen and I'll do it today.
Excellent.
So that.
Worst
will
case,
always-
to your point, if we have to point them to Community Foundation's
Right.
donation page.
Yep, with some
Then
verbiage
they
on it.
navigate it.
Mhm, then they can navigate it. It's real easy.
Yeah.
Just hit the donate button and it'll take it right to them.
Excellent.
It'll stay up all the time. But thanks, Dan. I appreciate you. You constantly find some stuff and call me and I really appreciate that. Somebody keeping their eyes on it. And anything you see. I went through the other day and I found a typo. It's like, golly, I've been through this like 100 times and I never saw it. So look at it with a critical eye too.
I appreciate it. I mean, obviously, this is a money we saved. Thank you. We can
Right.
put towards trail maintenance.
Right.
So-
I'd say about, yeah. That's, so, and that was gonna be a little bit pricey, so I appreciate that. All right, let's move on to other business. Is there any other business for this body today?
My only, we had talked about, I mean, do we want to just continue to meet here? Do we talked about rotating it?
But I would like to rotate, my own personal opinion. I think we should go from one to the next, to the next, to the next. Now, this technology they have is fantastic because we can bring in Zoom, but I don't think we're obligated by next month to have Zoom, is it?
We're not obligated.
It's just a-
Either.
just
It's
a-
just, a-
So
we
if we're in
choose to
township,
do
and you
it.
don't have that capacity, I don't know. if
We
Do you? Do you? No, you don't even know how to use Zoom.
So
Anyways.
why would I need to know how to?
Here's
use
a-
it?
Do you have computers?
There's a, all it takes, I bought a webcam, with a
Right.
portable that has a microphone and
And
a
it works?
speaker, and it works, and all you need is a laptop, so.
How much did you guys pay? I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
You know, Dusty, you're not gonna hurt my feelings if you don't wanna have a meeting.
Oh, come on, it's part
Don't worry
of
about
bringing
it.
ourselves out to the community. I like the whole idea of
Well,
rotating.
You can come out, but don't bring your Zoom camera.
Do you have Wi-Fi?
What's that? Yes, we have Wi-Fi.
We'll take care of that part, Jimmy. Just open the door.
Well, yeah, my thought is maybe keep it simple, just go alphabetic, we were in Adrian City, now we go to Adrian Township.
You're next.
Oh.
Yeah.
Then maybe Grayson Township, then Tecumseh.
Yeah, we're ready to rock and roll.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
All right.
And I want to bring that.
Yeah, we'll have donuts though.
You will?
Yeah.
Wow.
Ooh, you're setting the bar pretty high.
Our finance director won't let us.
Yeah.
No budge.
Speaking of your
I
finance
saw the manager
director,
body.
right, this has nothing to do with anything about the trail, but I play pickleball with her about 3 days a week. And
The
she's
former one.
wondering.
Former
when-
one who established that rule.
Yeah, the former, yeah. She's wondering when the courts are gonna be ready in the city.
We're working on them.
Well, that's what she told me.
That's not another business of the authority now. I do want to ask this question. It's just, I know we're all busy, but is there enough business of this authority to change our meetings to a monthly basis, or should we stay on a bi-monthly basis?
I wouldn't be opposed to having it once a month, just until we get things rolling.
I feel
Because
like
we
there's
got some
long
bills
stances
coming in,
between
Matt's gonna be
I think
having
it
some
seems like-
things,
To me, it seems way too
and
long.
it's
to wait.
September is our next meeting. And you wanna have something for us for September, well, Jesus, getting to the end of the season. So, no, it wouldn't bother me at all, at least for a while, because you can always call a special meeting.
Right.
I mean, we're set for every other month, but there's no reason we can't meet monthly.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, there's several things here I'd love to see us accomplish. One would be the creation of a budget, a policy for finance. I really think we should just, even today, authorize you up to a certain dollar amount, take care of it.
Right.
So you don't have to come back here, like, I don't know, 2,000, until such time we can institute a policy and a budget, and love to see a monthly financial report.
All right.
That's just my 2 cents.
I think
I'd
that's
like to see
exactly
this.
right. So, so a couple of motions could come from that. One motion could be to authorize a minimum, maximum spending amount for the chair as it relates to activities that are related to the authority.
I would say like
Oh,
5,000.
Be fine.
That's my fine. 5,000, I think, would be good.
We can authorize him to spend $5,000.
We know where he lives.
Yeah, it'd be easy to find.
So moved.
There's been a motion. Is there support?
Support.
There's support from Dan. Is there any further discussion on the spending policy of 5,000 or less? for the chair? Roll call.
So that was a motion from Tom.
I
No, for
actually,
me.
Member Hawkins.
From Jim, no, from Jim, the motion, and then Dan, the support.
Member Swallow,
Yes.
Member Hawkins,
yes,
Chair Steele,
Yes.
Member Elliott,
Yes.
Member Kane.
Yes.
Motion to authorize a spending limit of $5,000 to the chair is approved by an audience vote.
The next thing I'd like to see a motion on is to move our meetings on a monthly basis. If you remember, we did a public notice that told about all the meetings that were gonna happen in 2021. And so that was posted. So now we'll need to go authorize Robin and Michelle to reissue that same document with monthly meetings for the remainder of this year.
Well, the thing is, I don't know that you want to authorize it as a regular meeting because I think the bylaws say it every other month. So do we have to change the bylaws?
Oh, that's right.
So where if you just authorize a special meeting next month, which I would so move,
There's a motion for a special meeting next month,
August 10th.
August 10th. Support. There's support from Greg
In Adrian Township.
and Agent Township. That's my wife's birthday too. No, it should be all right. It's in the
You
morning.
don't have to drive very far.
Yeah. The damn bridge would never get done. All right.
Jim, what day in August did you say that was?
August 10th.
August 10th?
Yeah.
Which is sticks with our second Tuesday.
Right, second Tuesday, yeah. And if anybody cares, the first Tuesday of August is my birthday.
All right.
Cards and donuts are appreciated.
All right. I don't even know if I've ever been in the Agent Township Hall. I know I haven't. That's
Your
gonna be
wife
a
has,
first.
but you
I have
haven't.
not.
You sent her out on a mission one time.
All right, there's been a motion support for a special meeting. Can we roll call on that yet?
Member Hawkins,
yes,
Chair Steele,
Yes.
Member Elliott,
Yes.
Member Kane,
Yes.
Member Swallow.
Yes.
The motion to add a special meeting on August 10th is approved by an audience vote.
Excellent. And then any other KRTA member comments before we go to our final public comment? Well, I would like to say this is great work. I appreciate today a lot. You know, I was thinking about it yesterday and the day before, and I didn't know how it would go, but everybody seems to be working so well together, and I appreciate all of you. It's amazing stuff, and as you can see, our activities are starting to increase, and we want to be more impactful, so we'll start doing a monthly meeting type thing and make sure we stay on top of things. We, again, appreciate the employees in the city of Adrian and the work they've been doing on the trail. I know that that it gets tough when these types of things happen and we're stretched out. It's a unique time, so hopefully in the years ahead it'll be better. So thank you for all your work. We'll move to public comment. Is there anybody on Zoom there that'd like to talk to us or anybody else?
Hi, Tom. My name is Trevor. I'm calling the
Sorry
package.
about that.
Love the day.
sorry.
Somebody said.
Yeah.
Well, I'd just like to thank, I guess it's Travis, or I think, is Dale and Dave for joining us.
Yeah, I can't see him around the pole.
Yeah.
There we go.
And Sarah,
And Sarah, yeah.
Oh, Bob Ford is there somewhere, I think.
He was.
He was.
Oh, okay.
I just want to thank you for addressing the overgrowth and the foliage. It's also me that was complaining, not just people calling me, because I ride a bike on it all the time. And I have a duck all the time,
Yep.
constantly, and I've almost hit somebody else on my bike because we're all trying to avoid
We were figuring those were bullets.
all of
coming
the
at you.
overgrowth. But also, just to take, into consideration when you're thinking about those mile markers, they're really hard to read anyways, especially when on a bike, because I bike the trail all the time. And so I just put an app on my phone, so now I know how many miles I'm going, because I can't even read those. So, it's not just, I know you're gonna be changing the signage, and that branding, but those are just really hard to read anyways.
High level is where they should be. Yeah, I agree.
But great, I'm very excited to see, I have been a trail person for a very long time and was always investigating trail authorities and always thought, this is something we need, why don't we have this? And then as I was becoming mayor, it was already being talked about, and I was like, yes, because I just think it's great to have that collaboration and to to move this forward, and it's exciting to see the extensions going on, but just the collaboration of all these communities together working on it.
Public comment?
Yeah, I got a public comment. If everybody else is done, because she just made an interesting point, is Jim countered it with, yeah, we need the signs at eye level. I would suggest, and then I combined it with what you said about theft proof as much as possible. Why not put it on the trail? Why not put it right down on the trail, so the biker can see it? Just an idea.
The only problem is, and I agree with you, that's a good point.
Nobody's gonna steal it off there.
Being in charge of Richland, putting the flags up for Kiwanis. A few years ago, well, you all know how they're marked. There's white marks in the road. They sealed the road without telling us in advance, and all 50 flag marks were gone. So that's the only issue.
I mean, maybe even an embedded type,
Yeah,
metal structure as opposed to paint.
well, and those overlays that they use on the road.
Oh, yeah, that too.
You're
Yeah,
done,
right.
and it's easy when you
Often.
seal coat, you just don't.
You just take the stripe all the way across every year.
Yeah,
Every year or every other year.
Yeah, well,
You
that's.
seal it.
yeah, you just don't seal that part, it's easy.
Stop the seal coat. Keep a bunch of those on hand.
You've obviously never sealed a driveway.
Can be done.
It can.
Anyhow, just brainstorming.
All right, that will bring us to the adjournment. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support. Support, that's Greg and then Dan. Any further discussion? We are, roll call, sorry about that. Roll call. Gotta be all right.
Chair Steele,
Yes.
Member Elliott,
Yes.
Member Kane,
Yes.
Member Swallow,
Yes.
Member Hawkins.
Yes.
The motion to adjourn is approved by all.
Thank you. Hi, Dale. See you later, Dale. Yeah. Travis.